Hey y'all, it's Loren LoRosa from The Breakfast Club. Sorry to interrupt, but y'all know how I do. So I'm here to talk about Top Dog Law. Y'all hear Top Dog Law all over your radio, and I know by now that if you want top dollar, you should also know this. You gotta call Top Dog Law if it's about your car accident. Don't let these little family lawyers finesse you into a little check. Shouldn't nothing be little this season. Remember, for any serious accident, injury case, Top Dog Law gets you top dollar. So make sure you call today to find out what your car accident, your slip and fall, or your construction accident case could really be worth. And calling Top Dog Law is completely free also. It's free for a consultation. Call Top Dog Law today to see if your case is eligible for compensation with no money down. So make sure y'all go holla at my dogs, no pun intended, over at Top Dog Law. That's Top Dog Law on Instagram and topdoglaw.com. Now, let's get back to The Breakfast Club.
Wake that ass up
early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Man, yesterday, y'all, Diddy's team messed up with Capricorn Clark on the stand. So Capricorn Clark, they went through a lot of things, and she was able to fill in context for a lot of things, and we'll get to that. But the biggest mess up for me was
Tell people who Capricorn Clark is.
Capricorn Clark is a previous personal assistant of Diddy's. She also came back to work for Diddy as like a head of marketing of some sorts for Sean John. She's had a few different roles because she's worked for him off and on since like 2011. But yes, so she's on the stand. They're running through like, you know, the Kid Cudi story, which she told a different story. The Suge Knight, which she tells a different story. The lie detector test. And then the defense, Diddy's team, is trying to make the point of, okay, like, all of this stuff happened, and you say that, you know, your experience allegedly was so gruesome, and like, you know, you allege that you were kidnapped by gun and all these things, but let's go down the timeline of you wanting to work with Diddy again after all of these things. So you leave or you're terminated around like after 2012. She alleges that she was terminated because she finally took a vacation. They asked her, Diddy's team asked her, well, where were you on vacation? She's like, I was in the south of France with Rihanna. And they're like, okay, they're trying to paint the picture like you had a really good lifestyle. You just want that back, and you didn't get that back allegedly. And that's why you're here, and that's why you're doing all these things. And she's like, you know, they bring up an email to show that she was in conversations about being upset that they were upset that she took this vacation. She says she gets back and she was terminated. Now, after this happens, she says that she was unable to find consistent good work at all. She's alleging that Diddy blackballed her. She says that at one point, she went and sat down in a meeting with Jimmy Iovine, who told her, like, look, this is supposed to be a meeting about allegedly supposed to be a meeting about a job opportunity, but I'm here to tell you to leave that Diddy stuff alone. Like, because she had came out and said, hey, this is what happened to me. She had filed civil suit. She was going to take legal action. And she says that people were coming to her telling her not to do it. She alleges Jimmy Iovine. She also says that Andre Harrell and Diddy pulled up on her at one point at the CAA meeting that she was having. But that conversation set like a foundation of she couldn't get work. So Diddy's team now is trying to prove that like Diddy had nothing to do with that. You just weren't able to get work. So they're like, wait, we're going to show you this recommendation letter that he wrote for you in just as recent as 2021. They bring up the letter and they're like, you know, Miss Clark, can you take a look at this letter? Refresh your memory so we can have a conversation about it. She looks and she's like, that's not from 2021. That's from 2012. And the defense attorney like stops, and we all like, I'm just like, well, maybe they got the dates wrong, whatever. And then the defense attorney, Mark Agnifilio, says again, no, take a look at this letter. This is a recommendation letter that, you know, Mr. Combs wrote for you in 2021. Again, they're trying to say to her, there's no way you were blackballed, allegedly, if he's helping
this letter,
you.
right.
Exactly, right? And she's like, no, this letter is from 2012. This is from the settlement that happened between us in 2012. Now we all in the court like,
Settlement?
Boom! Look at y'all.
Tell them what the settlement was.
So the settlement, there was she had claimed that she was, you know, blackballed. She couldn't work. She was so stressed from work that she was losing hair and all these things, right? And it amounted to her not having a job. She alleges that her home was taken. You know, she wasn't able to provide for herself.
Right.
Her son, who was autistic, she wasn't able to provide for her son. So she was like, I need something. I'm trying to get my life back. But the settlement basically was that they came together. Her and Diddy allegedly agreed that they wouldn't go anywhere and disparage each other as long as she was settled out. But a part of that settlement was she asked for the recommendation letter to happen because she wanted to be able to work.
So she knew where that letter was coming from, so the defense had it wrong.
Oh, not only did she know where it was coming from, when she clarified with Diddy's attorney, she said, they said, well, look at the bottom of that letter. Isn't that Mr. Combs' signature? She said, yeah, but I wrote this letter.
Jesus.
So
how much did she get? Did they say?
They asked. They were trying to figure out whether she could say it on the stand or not, and we didn't find out. But we tried to get to it. They tried to get to it a couple times.
And then what did the prosecution do after that?
The prosecution after that came back in and said, oh, okay, well, now that it's been introduced, right, that this settlement happened, the door is open. Let's have a conversation about, that time period in your life. Oh my God, she was already breaking down because the defense was pushing and pushing and pushing, and it worked to the prosecution's favor because she literally broke down. But the prosecutors are like, well, let's get into it, because they also brought up this meeting that she had in April 2024. This is after the raids had happened and all that stuff, right? And the defense tried to make it seem like, again, this is you just trying to come back and work for Puff, and why would you do that? You're willing to stand beside him after all these things have happened, but you had these claims and all the settlement or whatever. Prosecution's like, please explain why you want to do that meeting. Y'all, when I tell y'all, she's bawling in tears, and we're all just like, wow. She's like, look, I felt like basically it was better to be an ally than to be against him. I had come out, I made the claims that I made. We figured out this settlement. I went through so much since 2012 trying to get my life back. So when there was a conversation between my attorneys and the defense attorneys about coming back in April 2024, because basically they were trying to allegedly fix things. Like they wanted to figure out how they could restructure Diddy because everything was happening, the raids and all this stuff. So they wanted to use her as like, the defense says she suggested it. The prosecution brought out of her that it was a conversation that was brought to her. She just entertained it. That she would basically be like, I'm the woman who's been here since 2010, 2011, 2012, known him since 2004. Basically, if I'm still here and I'm sitting beside him and I'm running all these things and I know the original formula, the businesses will still be able to go. But also, it's a good look because all of these claims are from this time period where I was around. Why would I stand next to him in such a big way? And she's like, I only entertained that because I wanted my life back. Like, I literally lost everything, allegedly. And like, man, she talked about...
And in response to that referral letter that she wrote and Diddy signed, they wouldn't even have bought in the settlement if it wasn't for that, right?
No.
That wouldn't even have came up in court.
Right? I don't know.
You'd have never known that Diddy settled with her back then.
The prosecution, even, it was mentioned like, they briefly were like mentioning the things and like kind of like there was so much that they were getting to because she was able to paint the picture of so many different things. But us being able to have the conversation about that recommendation letter, finding out that she wrote the letter, finding out that that was a part of the settlement, finding out that it was a part of the settlement because basically she was trying to make it where she could work again. All of that came because Diddy's attorney introduced it, and he thought that he was proving something recent, and it backfired. Then she started talking about even being able to Chris Lighty. She brought up Chris Lighty, right?
But let me ask you a question. What part of the trial is that what he's charged with? Because it wasn't she part of the kidnapping, right? Because she didn't get to that yet.
I didn't. She alleges that she was kidnapped by gunpoint and taken to Kid Cudi's house, and that she was made to stay in the car while they allegedly chased Kid Cudi through the Hollywood Hills. Kid Cudi didn't tell us that there was a chase. She alleges that she was overworked and underpaid, causing like physical change to her body and mental stress. She alleges that Diddy used his power to basically strip her of everything. Her home allegedly was being paid for by him. Her car. Everything was taken from her the minute that she started complaining about things that she saw because she had witnessed the Diddy and Cassie physically get into it. And they tried to paint her as this like love struck, I had a crush on Diddy, I was jealous of Cassie, and she broke down crying and she said, I wasn't jealous of Cassie, I was upset that he messed up the program. He let this woman come in, mess up everything, and my life depends on this. My stakes are higher.
Now didn't she say something like he didn't stop Cassie's career. Cassie stopped her own career because she wasn't talented.
Cassie is not. She is not the biggest Cassie fan at all. Me and You was not on replay. She basically said that she felt like Cassie was giving all of these resources and didn't deserve them because she was. I mean, she got by and she sung a little bit. Like, that was cute. But yeah, she said that she wasn't like a. She ain't no Whitney Houston.
She wasn't a star.
Yeah, like
the whole world know that.
That's how you know she's an honest witness.
Yeah, definitely honest.
And it wasn't hating. She was literally being honest.
But that's the best
Somebody
honest because she's there for herself. Last question. You was mentioning Chris Lighty, and
Yes.
Chris Lighty died. And if you don't know who Chris Lighty is, Chris Lighty used to manage, started a company with Mona Scott Violator was the name of the company. They managed Missy, Busta Rhymes, 50 Cent at one time, Nori at one time, and a host of others. So what happened with Chris Lighty?
She was talking about trying to get her life back and get a job when we were having a conversation about that recommendation letter. And they said at one point, she mentioned at one point she had gotten a job offer from Chris Lighty. And then like the day before she was about to start, day of, he died. And then she broke down crying again.
How did he die?
So it's alleged suicide. Yeah, right.
Suicide.
But yes. So,
but they didn't believe that because a lot of people said they didn't believe it was suicide. They thought maybe something else happened. But did that come up at all?
No, she didn't. It was just a mention of her telling a story about how she was meeting with all these big names and people were trying to look out for her. But then there were people who were like, "No, we're not looking out for you. We're not touching you."
Wow. All right.
Damn.
Well, that is the latest with Loren. All right, we got more next hour. Now, who's on trial today? Who's talking today?
Today they're going to talk to Cassie's stylist. His name is Deontay. They're also going to talk to an arson investigator and a LAPD officer.
Okay. All right. When we come back, we got front page news. And then Humble Poe will be joining us. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Check out video of the full show on Tubi. Free. Classic interviews and more on Tubi every day, all day long, all for free. Just search Breakfast Club and grab your popcorn.